Hello everybody and welcome to another A+ 1102 quiz where I'm going to give you a practice question from every single exam objective and we'll go through the answers and see if we can wrap our heads around it. Let's get straight to it. The first question reads as follows. You are concerned about the latest software updates and want to check for new Windows updates or view your update history. Which Windows setting would be the most helpful for managing updates? A. Gaming, B. Accounts, C. Update and security, or D. Privacy. Pause the video if you need some time. Your answer coming in 3, 2, 1. The correct answer is update and security, up the top left hand corner here. And right, pretty intuitive that one. It's quite literally in the name. So in relation to this particular exam objective, I'm not going to drill down into it super hard because it's really just a matter of knowing what each of the different menus allow you to do. So we'll quickly go through it, right? We also had gaming as an option, so you can actually open up the gaming section and configure your device to be able to prioritize game performance, configure graphic settings, do all the things a game is going to want to be able to do. You can also go into the account setting. The account settings manage user accounts on your system. So you're basically looking at managing your sign-in, update account information, changing your password or adding security measures, things to that effect. So you've got a quick visual representation of that here, and you're pretty much going to be acting like this guy right in this photo, looking super proud, super happy because you finally made it to the top. You're acting as in a sense, you're acting as the administrator. You're changing those account settings. You're saying what accounts can do what are the specific configurations of those accounts. You have that power over all of those accounts. You're in charge and your ego's getting to your head, kind of like that guy. And then we also had privacy. So obviously that's going to allow you to control all things related to data sharing, what apps can access what kind of information, things to that effect. So if you want to be a gray man, like this guy over here, you can't even see his face, he's an all black looking sneaky, you might want to use the privacy setting. You've got a screenshot of that here. But like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because often, even without studying it, it's quite intuitive, but you will be getting some questions on it, so I did have to throw it in here. That's from exam objective 1.5. Given a scenario, use the appropriate Windows settings, right? So, of course, if it asks you about time, it's going to be in time and language. If it asks you about updates, it's going to be in update and security. If it asks you about personalizing your computer, it's going to be in personalization. Just head over to the Windows settings and have a practice of running through all of these, and you'll be able to pretty confidently answer any question relating to this. I'm going to say this one's largely a matter of actually running through and physically just exploring it. And if you explore it enough, you'll get the hang of it. Now, that's the first question. We've got 3 more to go. The next question is coming from exam objective 2, a little bit trickier. Which of the following should be reserved for severe malware cases? A. User education regarding common threats. B. Anti-phishing training. C. OS reinstallation. Or D. Safe mode. Pause the video if you need some time. Your answer coming in 3, 2, 1. Now, the correct answer is C, OS reinstallation, and that's essentially because that's a very, very extreme measure, right? It could absolutely fix the problem, 100%, but you're probably going to want to take some other steps before you go to that drastic measure. So otherwise, you end up looking like one of these people. It's like, yeah, congratulations, you got rid of the malware, but at what cost, man? At what cost? You lost all of your cat pictures. Was it worth it? No, it's never worth it, right? So you don't want to jump straight to the extreme. You always want to take the most reasonable step forward and gradually increase on the ladder there. Okay, so we also had some other options. The other options were we had user education regarding common threats. Now, that's a preventative measure as outlined there, right? So we got this guy, he's studying. We're wanting him to be educated on the common threats so that he can better avoid them. So that way our industry, our company doesn't get threats coming in through him just because he made some silly mistake in relation to these vulnerabilities, right? So that's not going to help us if we already have a malware infestation because it's a preventative measure, but it is something we're going to want to do, absolutely. Now, we also had B, anti-phishing training. That's basically just a more specific type of what we just went through. So it's educating people on how not to become a victim of phishing. And if they do become a victim, they'll end up looking like this lady here. She's shocked because she's been sent an email that her company actually crafted, and that email was meant to replicate a phishing email. They'll do this sometimes. I get these emails relatively frequently, and if you click on the button, you'll actually get a big warning that's like, you have been scammed, or you have been hacked, or you have just clicked on a simulated phishing email, right? So that acts as a form of education, because the people that would actually click on a phishing email see that, and they get to read some information. They get information on what to look out for in relation to phishing emails, so they know what to avoid in the future. And then we also had safe mode. So safe mode, you can start the system in a mode that is essentially safe, and you would do this if you want to troubleshoot various issues. So upon startup, you'll see this menu, right? You can press a variety of numbers to activate different modes upon opening up, depending on what you want to do. You're going to want to enable safe mode, and then you can start troubleshooting from there safely without potentially putting your system at risk of things that it might otherwise be at risk of occurring if you were not in safe mode. So that's what that is. Again, I'll go into more detail with that in future videos, but for now, that's a brief overview. That one came from Exam Objective 2.3. Given a scenario, detect, remove, and prevent malware using the appropriate tools and methods. So we had tools and methods. That's what we looked at. Within this, you've got recovery mode, antivirus, anti-malware, software, firewalls, anti-phishing training, user education, and OS reinstallation. All right, so those are some of the things you're going to want to know about. We've covered some of those. We'll cover the rest in future videos. We'll go into more detail as well. But just understand that roughly what we covered today, that level of depth, you're going to want to understand that for all of these too. And of course, you're going to want to know what the common categorizations or the common categories of malware are over here. We're not going to do that today. We'll do it later on though. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get into the next question, which reads, you have encountered a security warning from your browser when trying to access a certain website. What is the most appropriate initial troubleshooting step that you should take to address this certificate warning? A, update your SSID. B, review the website address carefully for any typos or inconsistencies. C, manually bypass the security warning. D, clear your browser's cache and cookies. Corrupted cache data might occasionally interfere with certificate verification. Or E, change your default browser to a different one, as the current browser might be malfunctioning. Answer coming in 3. Pause the video if you need to. 2, 1. Now. So the answer is B, review the website address carefully for any typos and inconsistencies. Now, simply put, this is a really simple step. Just look up at the URL and make sure you typed in the correct address. It could be the case you've accidentally typed in an address that has been formulated to look the same. Maybe it has an extra S or an extra letter or whatever it may be somewhere, because they're trying to target people who are attempting to visit this URL, but they're counting on them mistyping. So if you get this, step number 1, just check the URL. That's one of those things where it's really easy to do, and it's not very extreme. And if that doesn't work, you can then say, okay, I'm actually at the correct address. What is the next step I should be taking? Always start at the bottom of the level, the ladder of extreme reactions to things, and then slowly wake your way up until you find yourself just smashing your computer with a hammer, right? You don't want to do that first. Do that at the end. That's your final step. Now, we also had update your SSID. Now, SSID just stands for Server Set Identifier, and that's essentially just the name of your Wi-Fi. When you're looking to connect to Wi-Fi, that's your Server Set Identifier. So that would not help us at all if we update the SSID. You can change the name, right? But that wouldn't help us in this scenario. It would help us if you wanted to have a funny name, such as I love cats and trees. Then we could change the SSID, but it's not going to help us here. Another option was manually bypass a security warning. That is a recipe for disaster, particularly if you haven't confirmed that you're actually going to the right place yet, which is why we took that first step, right? That's why we got a car crash. It's basically the same thing as driving your car into another car. You're going to end up very upset like this lady, very depressed, because you now have a malware infestation because you've just ignored a security warning and gone straight into a website, and now people can access all your bank details and they know exactly where you live. That's not something that you want at all. Another option was clear your browser's cache and cookies. It might resolve website loading issues, but it's not likely to affect a website security certificate. So it's not going to help us in this specific instance. But we do like cookies, so if you're feeling hungry, go ahead and grab one. The final one was change your default browser to a different one. This isn't going to solve the problem of us going to a website and finding a security certificate issue, right? It's not the most likely thing, right? So when we're looking at these questions, let's go ahead and have a look at what it said. The specific question was worded, what is the most appropriate initial troubleshooting step? What is the initial? So do we want to go and open up another browser and see if that's happening? Is that easier to do than simply looking at the URL, making sure we typed it in? No, that takes a lot more effort. So as a result, the most appropriate initial troubleshooting step is the one that takes the least amount of effort and is likely to be the solution to our problem simultaneously. And in that case, just checking the URL is the one that we're looking at. So that is why changing default browser, going into the settings, changing default browser, right, doesn't really make a lot of sense in this instance. So you'll end up looking like this guy, just rummaging through drawers. It's almost like you're just doing whatever you can think of. No, don't do that. Label your drawers, go through them methodically, and make sure you're doing the right thing. And the thing that is likely to achieve your goal with the minimal amount of effort. Now, that came from exam objective 3.2, which has given a scenario, troubleshoot common personal computer or PC security issues, and specifically the dot point browser related symptoms. And there's 3 you really need to know about for the sake of your exam. They've outlined them for you here: random or frequent pop-ups, certificate warnings, and redirection. So we specifically just went through certificate warnings there. That's what that question was on. So you'll also need to know about the other 2. We'll cover them in future videos, but just know you need to know about them. Now, before we move on to the final question, which is going to be a tricky one, I'm going to have a short word from today's sponsor.
Hey everybody, this video is very quickly interrupted by today's sponsor, which is me. I'm here to tell you about my A+ 1102 learning guide, which will give you detailed, comprehensive notes. It will give you active recall questions, practice examination questions with detailed answers and explanations for every single dot point within every single exam objective. And what's better yet, it will tell you what dot point specifically those questions and notes are for. And once you finish studying, you can head over to the online quiz database and take a simulated examination experience over there too. All of that for a super affordable price. This is something I wish I had when I was studying for my exam, and I'm super happy to be able to provide this to you to make the process so much easier. JourneyToCyber.com. Head over there. I'll see you there. Back to the video. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening.
All right, thanks, me. Back to it. Back to that final question. We're going to go ahead and go through the last question now. It reads, identify the backup type. This backup method captures only the changes made to files since the last full backup. This makes it faster and more storage efficient than a full backup, but it relies on having a prior full backup available for complete restoration. Is that describing A, a full backup, B, an incremental backup, C, a differential backup, or D, a synthetic backup? Pause the video if you need some more time. Your answer coming in 3, 2, 1. Now the answer is a C, differential backup. Now this is a really tricky one, and there's a lot of finicky details. This took me a little while to get my head around when I was first studying to this, because again, I had no IT experience myself, but we'll quickly run you through it with some kind of metaphors and stuff that I think and some images that I think will help us visualize what the differences are between these different types of backups. So first of all, correct answer was differential backup. What does that mean? So for a differential backup, that captures all the changes made to the file since the last full backup. So let's say January 1st, we back up our machine. That's our full backup over here. A differential backup is going to back up everything since that full backup, right? So we're not backing up the full system. We're just backing up everything that's changed since January 1st when we did that initial full backup, all right? So the question specifically described, this method captures only the changes made to files since the last full backup. So that's how we know we're looking at a differential backup. Alternatively, we of course have a full backup. So that would be, the example is we have a full backup on January 1st, and then again on February 1st, we back up everything. So not just what's changed between the two, we're backing up everything on the system all over again. Takes a lot of time, takes a lot of resources, but it's a good way to make sure you've got everything on there in the one backup. So full backup is everything on the device. Here's where it gets tricky. Here's where it gets complicated in relation to trying to remember this stuff. We also have an incremental backup. You might be thinking, hold on, incremental sounds a lot like differential. You're right, they're very similar, but I'm going to try to make the distinction for you very clear here with this explanation. So first of all, an incremental backup captures only the changes made to files since the last backup, whether it was a full backup or another incremental backup. While it's more storage efficient and quicker to complete than a full backup, restoring from an incremental backup requires access to all of the previous backups. So what that means is, again, let's say we back up, do a full backup on January 1st, and then on January 20th, we do an incremental backup, which is, of course, we're only backing up things between January 1st and January 20th. So not everything, just what's changed. And then on February 1st, we do another incremental backup. And that, it's not saving everything since the last full backup, it's only saving everything since the last incremental backup. So it's only this little portion here that it will be saving. And that's the key difference between differential and incremental. So remember, differential was everything since the last full backup only, whereas incremental is everything since the last full backup or since the last incremental backup. So that's the key distinction between those two. The final option we had was synthetic backup. So a synthetic backup, right? Let's say we have all of these incremental backups that we've gone through. So many. We just want it to be nice and organized. We want to take all of the little backups that we've done and put them in a nice organized box. That is essentially a synthetic backup. So you're combining all of the previous backups that you've done into one. So this type of backup combines a full backup and any incremental backups into one backup set called a synthetic backup. It doesn't create a complete copy of all data at a specific point in time like a full backup does. So it's just combining the already existing backups that you have done. This takes a lot of time, takes a lot of resources, but it can be a good way of consolidating all of your prior backups. Now, of course, you do have to have access to those prior backups in order for that to take place, but that's self-explanatory. Now, if you want to know, what exam objective this came from, it came from 4.3, and we had to look at all of these. So backup and recovery, full, incremental, differential, and synthetic. There's some other backup concepts you'll need to know about, but we'll cover those in another video. Now, if you enjoyed this video and you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, man, this was really helpful in preparing me for the exam. Look, he's even thrown in these brief summaries for each different type of backup after he's talked about it. Wow, what a great guy. Just hypothetically, you might be thinking that. Then I recommend head over to journeytocyber.com, where you can grab my A+ 1102 resources for this exam, which in my opinion are the best bang for your buck and the highest quality resources out there. So over there, I have two primary products for you. I've got my learning guide, and in my learning guide, I break this down by not only the exam objective, as you can see here, but also by each dot point within the exam objective. Now, for each of these, you get comprehensive notes. You can see a small snippet of that here. You also get active recall questions, multiple choice questions that simulate the kind of questions you'll get in the exam with detailed answers for each section. So it's broken down by the section itself. So you know exactly what you're studying, and you know if you get those wrong, exactly what you need to study and where to go to study it. You just come back to the specific section and you're good to go. And then once you finish, that was my wife sneezing, bless you, darling. Once you finish that, you can also go to the online quiz database where you can have a simulated exam experience, okay? And it's basically the questions from the PDF document, but in a simulated exam experience. Same explanations, very detailed, but it just gives you that virtual experience, I suppose. So that's pretty handy. People like that one. Now, I also have my performance-based questions. So there's 7 PBQs there. People are always worried about the PBQs. Head over there. I've got 7 performance-based questions, which will essentially require you to have a look at the multiple exam objectives and pull them together. There's no reliance on multiple choice questions and answers there. You've got to do it all yourself. So if you want to get some experience with high quality performance-based questions, that's for you. All of that over at journeytocyber.com. As you can see here, I've got some great reviews. Your notes definitely helped me pass my test today. The guide is really good. Learning guide is really good. Made everything a lot clearer. Your guide is actually goated. So really like that one. These are all from my A+ 1101 learning guide and resources. But for this one, for the 1102, I've basically taken everything I did for that first learning guide and I put it on steroids, and it's just like double the quality in my opinion, because people really like that first one. So If you want to join these people who have passed, some of them have passed their exam, explicitly stated, with my resources, and they credit my resources, at least partially, to their passing of the exam, then you can head on over to journeytocyber.com. Otherwise, guys, I'll see you in the next video, and good luck studying for your exam. Can't wait to hear that you passed.